Latinus gazed into the gently rising steam. Behind him he could hear the sound of scrubbing and the scrape of cold ash being raked out of the furnace, and Catus's voice issuing orders to the slaves, as if Catus owned the place, as if any of this would last for long without the visitors, and as if the visitors would be here without Latinus, the manager who made his living, and that of most other people around here, by bringing them in, keeping them happy, and keeping them spending. Latinus had once tried to point this out, but the chief engineer tartly reminded him that without someone to control the waters, the place would still be a weed-infested bog with a few hairy natives peering at each other through the mist. Today, though, it would fall upon Latinus to protect Sulis Minerva, and, coincidentally, his own business, from the fears that would send her worshippers elsewhere. No doubt the council of magistrates, the priests, and all the various associations would meet and argue over how to mitigate the damage. Meanwhile, Latinus had to get on with it. He would have to call his staff together before opening time. He would tell them, as if they might not know already, about the terrible events of last night, and warn them that the visitors might be a little nervous today, and in need of gentle handling. If asked about the fire, the staff were to stress the number of lives saved, the alertness of the terrier that had sounded the alarm, the demolition of the workshop next door to the stricken inn, a bold act that had created a fire break, the quick thinking and bravery of the local residents, especially the Veterans Association, who had been meeting nearby and had been determined to protect the town's honoured guests at all costs. Perhaps— He frowned, distracted by something on the surface of the water. The bubbling on the spring made many strange patterns, but he had never seen one like that. He leaned farther out into the poor light, craning his neck and trying to squint through the shifting vapour. Possibly some prankster with no respect had thrown something unsuitable into the pool. He would have to tell the priests. The temple slaves would fetch the net and fish it out. For a moment he thought it might be a sudden rush of the black sand that the goddess sometimes sent up from the depths with her sacred water, but it was more tangible than that. Something was drifting about in there. It was as though the figure of the goddess herself were rising up from the depths. It was— The steam shifted sideways, moved by an unseen current of air. "Oh, holy Minerva," he whispered, and before he could stop himself, "This is a disaster." "What is?" Catus must have finished with the furnace and was passing through the hall on his way to inspect the main bath. Slowly, Latinus extended one finger toward the gently bubbling surface of the pool. He was aware of Catus clambering up beside him, leaning out to get a better look. The engineer gave a stifled cry and drew back from the window. Latinus heard the door crash against the wall, and Catus reappeared outside. For a moment the engineer bent across the railings, staring into the pool. Then he stepped over the barrier and sat at the water's edge. Finally, ignoring the dangers, he took a deep breath, slid in, and began to swim. Latinus made no effort to help, or to interfere. He was transfixed by the sight of the dead woman floating face down in the steaming water. Catus had found his niece.